Damn it, Stevenson, I'm the most progressive.
Oh, God, he's so strong. I'm the most progressive. I'm the most progressive.
All right, we're both progressive. All right.
Oh, jeez. Oh, good God. Oh, welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David, the most progressive Stevenson, and James, the mostest progressive Root. And you're also going to be tonight the economic guru.
That's right, Dave, as always.
And we're going to talk about the Federal Reserve. We're going to talk about also, more specifically, local currency. Yes, you're right, absolutely. Local currency. And what are the advantages of local currency? I mean, should we start there, or should we start talking about maybe the history of it? What's your choice on that?
Well, why local currency? First of all, basically, what is it? Most people are used to using American dollars, Federal Reserve notes to carry on daily business, buying groceries or whatever. And most people consider this as the only option there is in everyday life. But as a matter of fact, there are some other options. Some other communities have tried using substitutes. One substitute we've all used at one time or another is barter. Just that is trading one object for another, or trading labor for something. Let's say I'll mow to your neighbor, I'll mow your lawn if you babysit my kid for a day, for instance. And local currency basically is just a facilitation of bartering. That's one way of looking at it.
So it has an abstract representation of the goods and services that are traded?
Right. So in effect, if we went ahead and printed up, let's say, and this is legal, if we printed up, let me give you an example. And I guess now is a good time to give an example of a local currency. Okay?
Yes.
The most famous one in the country was done in Ithaca, New York. Ithaca is known as it's a college town. Cornell University is there.
Yep.
But actually, this local currency was achieved by the town outside the university. Actually, most of the economic activity with the local currency is done outside the university. But anyway, Ithaca is known for Cornell. But anyway, in Ithaca, the local residents, during the 91 recession, things were very bad there, and they decided in a recession, a lot of times, this is a little technical economically, but you have a liquidity problem like there is now. There's just not enough cash.
So you can't go down to the bank and borrow money to do something, or you can't go down to the bank and solve a cash flow issue.
That's right. And there's so many chains and so many large-scale businesses that a lot of the cash purchases, the cash doesn't stay in the town or the local area. It gets siphoned right off out of the area.
We've talked about that, at length on our show, about how large companies, and if you go to Walmart, if you go to Dunkin' Donuts, my love, if you go to any large company, the profits go elsewhere.
That's right. I mean, economists have calculated that if you spend locally, that money is used as much as 8 times its value. That is, if you spend
circulates.
That's
yeah.
right. And so, local currency, just by its nature, is going to achieve that, because you're not. Let's say if we print up, for example, Danbury hours like they did in Ithaca, that money is not going to be usable down in Charleston, South Carolina, or even in New York City. So it's going to stay in the community. So it's going to have more of a value than a Federal Reserve note, a normal $1 bill or $10 bill printed by the Federal Reserve.
Now they talk about how money works best when it travels the quickest, when it goes from you to me, and then you spend money somewhere else, and that person spends money with me, and it goes through this entire large circle within the community. But that doesn't really happen, as we discussed with large corporations. It goes away and never comes back.
Well, that's right. I mean, with the larger scale businesses, first of all, most times they're not even using cash. They're dealing with credits and accounts. So, I mean, if people don't realize this, in our economy, over 95% at least, and probably closer towards 100, probably more than 98% of the entire money supply is non-cash. It's just on paper. It's on accounts. It's being created in bank accounts. In the fractional banking reserve system. A very small part of that is actually cash, but cash is still important. But anyway, when even that pretend money dries up, the cash can dry up too. But anyway, getting back to your question, the larger scale businesses they're not even going to use cash so much, but what cash they do is not going to be less likely to stay in the community.
Are we talking about bartering?
With local currency?
Yeah.
Well, all transactions are barter in a sense. And if I go to Los movie theaters, for instance, hypothetically, and spend $10 for a ticket, I'm trading.
Bethel Cinema. We don't go to Lowe's because Lowe's is a large corporation. So we go to Bethel Cinema, which has a number of fine films being shown. Edmond Town Hall in Newtown. Great low price theater, good quality, good sound, good films. Okay.
Right, but I was just trying to draw an extreme example. I mean, I've used Lowe's deliberately to show that even these businesses that we consider destructive to the local economy, they're actually doing barter too. Technically, but you come down further, smaller in scale. It's more of a pure barter situation. Oftentimes, the local currency has been called barter currency. You're selling barter. Let me explain a few more terms also. Also, let me reference this publication. This is put out by the creator of the Ithaca Hour local currency. And on the cover here, you can see some of the currency they printed up.
Hometown money, and that's a good reference point. Google hometown money, take a look and learn a little bit about the concept of having a local currency. And you want to talk about Danbury and how that would play out in Danbury? Or
sure,
should we go to the origins of the concept?
Yeah, let me just finish up with the contact information on this. You could find this publication or information on this, or just, you don't have to purchase this. You can go to the website and get a lot of information. If you do a search on Ithaca Hours, actually 2 websites come up. Both are very informative, and they'll go into details on how this originated, how it worked. It's worked for over 20 years now. And
so it's still in place then?
Absolutely, yeah, still flourishing.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, that's good to know that it's a success story.
There are also videos. There are links, I think, on YouTube, but there's also links on the websites also. Have we been able to get a close-up on this? Because I'll show a picture of this. It's kind of neat, the actual bills.
We could just leave that to the audience's discretion to take a look and see. I'll just read it off briefly. Hometown Money, How to Enrich Your Community with Local Currency by Paul Glover.
Yeah.
Founder of Ithaca Hours, and that's as in hours in the day.
Yeah, they started out, you don't have to do it this way, but they decided to use labor hours as the unit to calculate by. It's interesting. So, and they also managed to raise the minimum wage at the same time. For instance, this is a good way to get into actually how this would work, for instance, okay? If we were to set this up in Danbury, first of all, to set up one of these systems, another word for this is LETS system, a local exchange trade system, I believe. It's also called
exchange trade system.
Yeah, you'll see this term if you research this. Also, social credit is another thing. You don't even need necessarily currency to do this. You can just do it keeping account cards, for instance. This has been done in the third world in some areas. But let's say
you keep a list of what you've done for somebody and what somebody's done for you.
All right, let's say a person is out of work, okay, and they're probably having a hard time getting a job, even informal jobs, which get paid in Federal Reserve notes and regular bills. If you have this system in place, let's say I go over and I can do some yard work for my neighbor.
Yeah.
He might not have cash either. Maybe he's having on hard times. Well, let's say you can keep track of it. Let's say I work 5 hours for him. It would be recorded. I did 5 hours of lawn work worth 5 units.
Yep.
And so he could get that in value from whatever skill you have. Let's say you're good at working on cars, or again, I mentioned the babysitting thing, or running an errand, or any kind of skill you might have that actually you wouldn't be able to find a market for, something you enjoy. You can return. You could do that for him. It's a barter. This is nothing. Yeah.
It also sounds like a great social networking system whereby you build, among other things, you build trust. You build trust in other members of the community.
Right, exactly. Money is really always in the social context. It's a way we all connect, and by even changing it in a small way, the kind of money we use and how we use it, it's going to have profound effects on society, even locally. But getting back to a hypothetical example, let's say, and again, this is just a more systemized barter system. Here we got the camera going here. This is the cover of the pamphlet I showed you. And this is the currency here. Let me just see real quickly if I can find a bigger picture of this. Yeah, this might be the best photograph. But you can see they printed out different denominations. Through the years, they did a few printings. And they actually don't have to do too many printings of this. I think in Ithaca they do one every 5 years. They stay in, and it's actually legally protected. Again, this is not illegal in any way. The government just asks that you do not print a denomination less than $1 of the value of the regular money, and that people try to pay taxes on it. To treat it the same way as regular money.
Yeah.
But nothing illegal. It's actually protected by law. If anyone tried to counterfeit this money, they would be prosecuted in the same way as if they were counterfeiting regular money. But anyway,
that is a good point to make, because people always question, if I'm going to do something, is it okay for me to do it? Am I breaking a law? And as you say, not.
Yeah, I mean, I brought this up. I've had a couple of test conversations with people on this. Because I really just got into this in the last couple of months, reading about it. And I kind of, I'm interested in doing it in Danbury, seeing if it were possible. And just in test conversations, the first reaction, even from bright people, is, well, you mean you're counterfeiting? And it's not the case. This is really printing a new money. And also, I'm going to get into this as an extended argument. This actually strengthens the regular currency too. It's hard to explain, but it actually sometimes people might be uncomfortable with this. Say this is going to undermine the regular currency. It's not. It actually strengthens the regular currency.
Well, here's the theoretical reason why it might not be illegal. If it were illegal to print money, would it not be illegal to print a piece of plastic out which represents $4,000 in potential value?
Right. Well, first of all, it's not illegal.
But I mean, if it were illegal, it should be legal, because if it were not legal,
you're pointing out the irony of credit cards. Okay,
yeah, the credit card is really no different than a bartering system or a representation of money other than Federal Reserve notes anyway.
Exactly. But anyway, getting back to a concrete example of how this would work in a town. You would start by trying to go around to businesses and ask them to accept, at least in part, payment in this currency. Let's call it Danbury hours, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay, Hatter hours, Danbury hours. So you go up and try to get businesses to sign up. And also it's advisable to print out a little of this money. You would give them, it's almost like a coupon. You would give them, for signing up, you would give them a value. Let's say I'll give you 2 Danbury hours. Let's say each hour is worth $10.
Yeah.
And we give them 20 just for start up, kind of a reward for signing up. And then you would print up a catalog, or what's the word for a directory of businesses involved. So then people, and you would distribute this, and so you would know anyone in the system, or anyone who has a skill to offer. You don't have to have a storefront, a skill to offer. Let's say you could do sewing, textile work. You can repair a certain object. You give lessons and whatever, music lessons or whatever. And again, if the local economy is slow, people can get on this and barter their services. And by having the currency in place, it facilitates it. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's how it works.
It's the point well taken, though. But it seems logical that something like this would be put into place to be put to the test during a sluggish economy, because let's say I run a printing business and I don't have enough business anyway. What loss is there to me, what gamble is there for me to do something for you on the promise that someday you'll do something for me or do something for somebody else, or do something for me? It's
and with this system,
all it really requires is a little bit of faith in the other people within the system.
That's right, and that's all this really does. 'Cause all this is kind of creating a more formal system of what people are doing informally all the time. I'll do this for you, do this for me. But by having this in place and recording it, it increases people's trust in this as an alternative commerce system.
Trust is an important thing, and the idea of having trust in other people within your community, however limited it is, if you've got 10, 20, 30, 40 businesses that are within this system, that trust in and of itself.
It would build on itself. It would be, like a lot of things, it would be, its most difficult phase would be early in the phase, getting it established. Because obviously people are going to say, what is this? What kind of, is this some kind of scam? Are you printing money for yourself? In Ithaca they called this hippie money derogatively.
It's a logical snipe. It's a snipe that sounds.
And it's understandable. Snipe. I mean, frankly, if I was running a storefront, I would want to ask questions too. Because everyone needs they can't afford to waste any effort these days. And anyway, and also leads us to another point, is that this cuts across political spectrums. On this show, a lot of times we're polarized in ideology. You know, we're labeling things progressive, conservative, Republican, Democrat. This appeals, I think, to people of all ilks. This local currency idea would appeal to the most left-wing of people and the most conservative Tea Party type of people, because it just basically helps people. It's in a local context. It's not easily distorted. You can see the good it's doing right in front of you.
Yeah, it sounds very apolitical in a lot of senses.
It's not ideological. It's practical.
Yeah, you can be a part. You don't go to a business and ask them, by the way, how do you feel about church and state? You go in there, you're there for business purposes.
Right. I would go in and say, we have business is slow. Maybe there are people in this commerce system that can do a service that you need. Let's say you need stationery, maybe you need your grounds swept out. I keep using the landscaping example, but there's lots of other skills that are eluding me. And if there's not money circulating, not enough, this is a way to jumpstart things.
I'm sure carpenters, plumbers, other tradespeople probably already do this. So if them, why not the local coffee shop? Why not the bookstore? Why not tutoring?
Right. It doesn't have to be a storefront. This could be more personal, individual, one-on-one type skill. As in Ithaca, there's a lot of farms around there. They use this maybe most successfully with farm workers, actually. They paid them. Most of the cases where this would be used as wage, they would use it in a partial way. With the farm workers, they were actually using it almost total. It worked almost. They completely replaced the regular notes. That's not going to be the case in Danbury. You know, it's just not too many farms left around here. But
right. We see a lot of that, I think, the concept of I'll come work on your farm, or I'll come tend to your animals. I'll do something agricultural for you in exchange for room and board. And maybe a few additional dollars.
Oh yeah, boy, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, and also we know how expensive rents are around here.
Yeah.
And again, most cases this wouldn't be 100% thing. It would just be partial payment. But if you just take 20%, 30%, even half of the fee, whatever it is, in this currency, it really has a significant effect on things. It makes a lot more transactions, a lot more commerce possible than it wouldn't have been. It unfreezes things, makes things more liquid, and again, it actually helps the regular currency in a way. Also, one thing I forgot to mention, related to farms. This is great in farmers markets. If you go down to Danbury's farmers market, they're already using some kinds of in effect substitute currency down there with the government program.
Yeah, no doubt that people bring produce in and exchange produce for produce.
Absolutely. And it's also a good way to promote your business, especially businesses which are connected, again, not to alienate anyone politically, but businesses that want to be known as progressive. I know a lot of the small